No, there are many different kinds of psychologists, all specializing in different areas. And if I list them all here, because there's about 60, 70 of them, this would be a 20-minute video. So let's talk about the most common ones that we've heard of. So many will hold doctorates. Many psychologists hold doctorates. Now, that's usually going to be a PhD or a PsyD. A PhD, a doctor of philosophy, a PsyD is a doctor of psychology. And you have to make sure that you don't confuse that with a psychiatrist, because a psychiatrist holds a medical degree. So they're actually medical doctors who specialize in mental health. But of course, not all psychologists hold doctorates. Some will hold master's degrees. And I suppose by far the most well-known is clinical psychologists, right? Clinical psychologists work with patients to diagnose and treat mental illness and to conduct psychotherapy and counseling sessions. Then you have counseling psychologists, and they work with patients individually in a therapy session or a counseling session to help them with their emotional well-being and to better understand themselves. And then you have occupational psychologists or workplace psychologists, and they work with organizations and businesses to analyze productivity, performance, and help put policies in place like bullying policies or discrimination policies and so forth, things like that. Then you have child psychologists, and child psychologists are exactly what they sound like. Most of them are clinical psychologists who specialize in children and young adults. Then there are behavioral psychologists, which is what I am. And we focus on behavior patterns and environment and how environment and the relationship with the environment impacts the mind. So we look at behavior and how behavior is impacted by external stimuli. And then we extrapolate how to predict that behavior. And some behavioral psychologists work with patients, of course they do, but many, like myself, don't. We tend to work with businesses and in a business setting. For example, identifying, predicting, and influencing consumer behavior. So those are the most common psychologists. But remember, there's huge numbers of psychologists. There's animal psychologists, there's forensic psychologists, there's criminal psychologists. So there's a lot of them. But the most common ones are those particular 5.